Good morning, everyone. It's early morning on a Tuesday here in Fukuoka. I want to film outside. It's a nice day today, but it's so windy that it's probably not gonna go well with a microphone. So today's topic is an interesting one. You saw me just practicing with a metronome here, and the topic is about Jeff Berlin and his controversial thoughts on the metronome. Well, for those of you who don't know, Jeff Berlin is actually a legendary bass player in the, I guess, modern jazz world. Electric bass player. Same generation as Jaco Pastorius. He's played with all the big names in kind of the modern world. And his thoughts are not appreciated by everyone. But I think a lot of people are not giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's a very nuanced person. I've read a lot of his thoughts. I don't know everything. I don't want to put words in his mouth. But he's basically saying that the metronome is useless. And I have it on my iPad. I have some screenshots about what he says. He's talking in the context... Again, I don't want to put words in his mouth. So if he watches this and I'm getting things wrong, I apologize in advance. But from what I understand, he's saying that as far as bass players are concerned, how is it that in societies across many, many generations, people didn't actually use metronomes in those days, but instead, as he says, societies were communally active. Musicians often acquired their sense of musical time through combining cultural traditions, rigorous training, and exposure to specific rhythms and musical structures from a young age. So that is very, very interesting. And then I'm going to skip a little bit here, but he says, people that see me as resisting popular consensus never considered that I would be lowering my musical standards by agreeing in metronome benefits when it would be better for bassists to raise their own standards. And I think this is very, very, very interesting. Now, personally, I'm not anti nor pro metronome. I think the metronome is a tool, and I think some people use it well. I think I use it well. I think a lot of people also use it not in the right way. So it's just a tool. It's how you use it. But what he says here, what was it? I would be lowering my musical standards by agreeing in metronome benefits when it would be better for bassists to raise their own standards. So let's just replace the word bassists with musicians. I think the standard has been lowered lately. People have become too nice. And in becoming too nice, we have lowered the standards to allow room for people who are not so good to shine. And those people then set the new standards. They give inspiration to other people, and then people say, "Oh, but this person did this and that, so why can't I?" So this is a very interesting topic. And here's another post that he made. Everybody can feel time in 4/4. So he's talking specifically about 4/4 or common rhythms, 3/4, 4/4. We're not talking about 7/8 or anything like that. So then he continues. It might be time to end the idea that people can't. If it turns out that some are in the rare group where they are not able to hear and feel a 4/4 bar, then maybe it is good if they quit bass playing unless they don't plan on playing with other people. 4/4 is basic. People don't need a metronome to feel what people celebrating at any party in America and Europe seem to be to feel more naturally than others think that they do. So, strong words from Jeff Berlin. Again, I really respect this guy. He's someone who's obviously thought a lot about music education. And in another post, he's just basically saying that these days, as I said, the musical standard has been lowered. I made another video about this some weeks ago. People go to teachers for clout, just to feel happy. They go to famous teachers. Oh, I studied with so and so. This person makes me feel so good, very fluffy inside. And this is kind of the problem with music education, because music education is factual. It's not going to care about your feelings, about whether you feel happy, sad, or anything. It's kind of like a mathematical equation. And I think I can prove it myself that, I learned to play, well, I don't play flamenco, but I learned all these flamenco techniques in the past few months. I practiced very, very hard. I followed the equation very carefully. I learned to speak Japanese in my late 30s, late and early 40s, because I followed the equation. I learned to play the violin and play the double bass late in life because I know what the equation is, and I follow it to the best of my ability. And I don't consider myself any more talented than the average person. The main talent that I have, as I said, is that I follow the equation. I believe in the system. It's almost like a religious belief. You have to believe in it. And a lot of people don't believe in it. And I've told many people what the equation is, and they say, "Oh, really?" And they just kind of ignore it. They just go, "Yeah, well, my teacher makes me feel fluffy inside, so I'm just going to stick with my teacher." That's fine. You know what? People play music for whatever reasons. If it makes you happy, that's great. That is important. You have to feel happy. I really agree with this. As I said, I think was it last week? Yeah. About, Gypsy Jazz saving my life, feeling better and all that stuff. Mental health is very, very important. But again, becoming better as a musician doesn't care about your feelings, about your mental health. Hi, Ben Shapiro. And, talk about politics, American politics now? No, we're not. Please, guys, let's not talk about that stuff. What was I going to say? Yeah, you have to follow the system. The system will reward you if you follow it. But many people are afraid of it. And I think Jeff Berlin, again, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he's saying the same thing as me. So let's talk about his thoughts. He's saying, how is it that people across generations, cultures, were able to feel groove? So actually, I left a comment in one of his Facebook posts, and he personally liked it. Oh, Senpai liked my post. Thank you so much. Where I said something to the effect that if we can agree that human beings, can never ever be perfect like a metronome, then yes, musicians can learn how to groove, because we are imperfect creatures. When we play music, the tempo will move in one way or another, but that is perfectly natural. If you take any recording, jazz recording from the 40s, 30s, 50s, and you somehow mathematically figure out the exact tempo in the beginning, and then you turn on the metronome, you sync it to the start of the recording, eventually it's going to go out of sync with the metronome. Because the musicians are moving, but because they learned to play together and they had high expectations of each other, they organically learn to play together, and it sounds good and it grooves. Most people who listen to it, they can probably dance to it, and without feeling like, oh, they rushed by 1 BPM here, oh, they dragged 0.2 BPM. No one is thinking that, right? It's like I said last week in my gypsy jazz video. All these gypsies who learn to play together without any concept of 4/4, without even any concept of metronomic precision. I've said last week that when they play together, it's often approximative in terms of time feel. I don't mean this in a negative way. Whereas a lot of like classical, when I use the term class, I don't mean classical music, but like traditional music bands nowadays practice together, their idea of precision is more precise than the gypsy jazz musicians' idea of precision. But they're always somehow together. And when you listen, not with your like magnifying glass, it never sounds bad. It always grooves. It's what makes the style what it is. So that's the point I think Jeff was making, and I guess he agrees with what I say. The goal is not to be perfect like a metronome. I don't know if you can hear it, but the building is shaking. I can hear the wind. It's like the wind here is insane, scary. You know, the Japanese government has been saying that Japan is due for a major natural disaster, earthquake and tsunami, like epic proportions. It's gonna devastate a huge, significant chunk of the country. So maybe this is my last video, guys. So I think that is very important to acknowledge. And in those days, especially in the past, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, if you read interviews of those musicians, a lot of them were not always the nicest of people. They could be jerks. I know that Benny Goodman, Buddy Rich, James Brown, those people were notorious taskmasters as band leaders. They didn't tolerate poor musicians. Django, actually, there are reports of Django treating his musicians terribly when something was not going according to his vision. Whereas nowadays, it's myself included. I'm guilty of this. I'm a nice person. Like, I don't like to hurt people's feelings. I really don't, But nowadays, it's like, oh, that's just how they play. Come on, let's be nice to everyone. Flowers. Let's smell the flowers. Beautiful. Oh, you look so good. Oh, I love it. I love how you haven't showered in 10 days. But you look fine. You do you. So, on the one hand, I think it's great that as a society, we've become much kinder. I really appreciate that. But it's a double-edged sword. A lot of people, despite all the progress, with all the resources available to us nowadays, the standards have also lowered. Yet, at the same time, there are more and more amazing musicians than ever before, because there are a minority of musicians who know the way, who follow the way, who practice well, and who have achieved amazing feats. So there's two things can be happening at the same time. The standard can be lowered, yet the overall playing can be much higher amongst certain people who are doing things the correct way. And I myself, over the years, I have not trained many people in the art of time feel. That was one of my biggest weaknesses as well. I've told you before, many people used to complain about my time feel until I worked really hard at it. And I have to say, I worked so very hard, and I still work on it. It's still one of my weaknesses. The kind of work that I put into it would probably make a lot of the average person depressed. But like I said in the previous video, I don't let it get to me. I know that if people are complaining about it, then there must be some truth to it, and I have to work on it. And the greatest reward for me is when the same people said, "Wow, what did you do, Dennis? Your time feel has improved significantly." So, proof that if you put your mind to it, if you're willing to go through this rigorous training regimen following the equation, you will be rewarded for it. But it's daunting. I'm not gonna lie. But this training I've given to not so many people. I have to see the personalities first, like see if they can handle this kind of pressure. Because even when I teach this timing sensitivity to people, I don't do it in a mean way. But you're going to hear me saying, nope, a lot. You sped up, you slow down, you sped up, you slow down here. This song, you sped up here, blah, blah. And it's not pleasant to hear this. And again, I'm going to give you an example. I think I want to share my pain with you so you guys can feel that you're not alone. It's the same thing with Japanese. There's this thing, Japanese pitch accent, where a lot of Japanese people don't even know this about their own language, but it's pitch based, and that's one way to getting to sounding like a native Japanese speaker. So you have words like hashi. It can be pronounced hashi or hashi. The pitch goes up hashi, or it goes down hashi, hashi, and depending on what comes after the word hashi can have two different meanings. Because you can say hashio or hashio, 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 or you also have the word hashi, which is an entirely different meaning. Because the sounds in Japanese are very, very, very limited, and a lot of sounds can have multiple meanings depending on context and depending on how you change the pitch. And how do you know what the pitch is? You just have to memorize them. You just have to know them. And often, a lot of foreigners who speak very, very good Japanese, they make a lot of mistakes or in the pitch accent area. And with my teachers, I always have to tell them, be very, very, very strict with me. Like, brutally. I have to remind them almost every few weeks, please be strict with me. I'm willing to go through this training. And they would tell, no, Dennis, you mispronounce it. No, Dennis, you mispronounce this. You mispronounce this word, this word, this word, this word, this word. Oh my God, it drains you. I understand the feeling. It's gonna be the same thing with time. If you work with someone that you trust, you have to be able to withstand this criticism. So in those days, musicians who wanted to work at the higher level with high musicianship players, they had to be able to withstand such criticism. And that's why a lot of those players got pretty good at what they do, or what they did. Whereas nowadays, like, we have to be more sensitive about how we treat people. It's a double-edged sword. A lot of these people are actually very skilled instrumentalists. But to be a skilled instrumentalist does not mean that you know how to play in an ensemble. That's musicianship. A lot of people can be virtuoso drummers, virtuoso bassists, virtuoso guitar players, but lack the necessary skills to play in a band setting. So some of these people who are amazing instrumentalists but poor musicians, they end up becoming teachers, influencers, and people look up to them. And that's kind of the thing that I guess Jeff Berlin is kind of against. Now, he names some very, very famous musicians. I wouldn't talk about such musicians like that, but he does have a point that a lot of this feel-good education has led nowhere. It's just the truth. The people who do progress are the people who follow the formula. That's just how it is. And a lot of people, I think actually most people know what the formula is, but a lot of people are too afraid of it because it's not talked about enough. And for that reason, I really respect Jeff Berlin. If you want to know what the formula is, just watch all my videos starting from December 6th. I talk a lot about this. It's not rocket science, and it's not a secret either. Now, another argument that Jeff makes about the metronome, he says that it's not good for developing technique. And actually, I agree with him to a certain extent. Now, it depends what kind of technique you're trying to develop. But, for example, you saw me practicing this thing earlier. I started practicing this at the end of January. And in the beginning, I definitely did not use the metronome. Because first I had to learn the notes. It was very confusing. Learning what the notes are. I had to learn the sequence of mechanisms for my left hand and right hand. And then after, I had to address the right hand issue as well. What's very complicated about this technique, this flamenco tremolo, is that you have to do rest strokes with the thumb. And ideally, according to my teachers, you have to avoid using the rest stroke with the arm. Even though I've seen some famous players do that, but you have to make sure it's coming from the thumb. So if you use the arm like this, it's not good apparently. That's what I was doing, so I had to correct that. And the fact of doing free strokes with these fingers and rest strokes with this finger is extremely, extremely complex. It's And then you also have to worry about the left hand. So what I first did, I didn't even worry about that. I just took one chord and I just practiced this. For hours. Every day. Then you have to be careful not to do has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. It can't be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. So the timing has to be very, very straight. Like Elton John. So I practiced this and I tried to gradually push the tempo. I've made videos about this in the past. Start watching my videos from December 6th. I talk a lot about this. And once I started feeling comfortable with these mechanisms, then I started learning the passage, the note. Then I noticed the trouble areas that suddenly you jump from the E string to the B string. So I practiced just this. What's it? Here. So this. Just isolating this. And going back. Going from this passage. And I would sometimes do it out of time like this. Then, out of time, just prepare the feeling. The thumb goes here and then I prepare to jump to the next string. The next hard one was here. The fact that the thumb is so low on the upper strings, it's very challenging for me. It's hard. It's still hard for me. Still getting used to it. So before even worrying about the metronome, playing it in time, you have to worry about all these things. And it took maybe, I don't know how long, but many hours of practice. We're now, today's April, 15th? I started this the end of January, so it's been like 3 months, is that it? Working on this, less than 3 months, I guess. And it's still a work in progress. But only after I felt comfortable with everything, relatively comfortable, that I start considering the metronome. And that took a while. Because before that, you don't want to add too many layers of complexity. You start with the basics. So that's what it was for me with technique as well. A lot of people tend to ask me how I develop these like double time lines or like playing very fast when I play gypsy jazz or bebop or whatever. I never used it's like Jeff Berlin says, I actually never used the metronome. I just played songs. And I practiced patterns, lines that I liked, many lines. And over time I learned how to connect them through voice leading, just the knowledge of the music. But yeah, I spent hours and hours just learning the mechanics, developing the muscle memory. And then after, you have to learn to play it in context. So you have to play it in the context of music. And here's the thing. I'm not, like I said, playing with a metronome has other benefits, and I've talked about this in other videos. But as he says, strictly for technique building, I never used it. Basically, when you start to use the metronome for such things is when your brain is no longer thinking or barely thinking about the mechanics of the left and right hands, and is not thinking about the notes. It just comes naturally. And that's something a teacher can never see. It's something that you know yourself. Like when you feel, when you're doing this, can you do it while distracted? You can talk, look around. See, kind of like that. I've practiced a lot for 3 months to get this to the point where I'm not thinking so much. But in the beginning, it was really like, okay, I have to switch here. So, I have to here, I was thinking a lot. And it could look like I'm playing it perfectly, but in my mind, if I'm thinking too much, concentrating too much on the notes and the mechanics of the right and left hands, then I'm not ready to play it yet. It's all about the muscle memory. So then I started turning on the metronome when I felt confident enough that I didn't have to worry too much about what I said earlier. So the metronome is to help me. I use it to develop steadiness in different tempos. So what you heard me do this morning earlier was, I don't know what tempo it was, but I do it across different tempos just to see if I can maintain this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In that sense, I think it is useful personally, where I would disagree a little bit with Jeff Berlin. However, there's something to be said. So this is something that I learned from Sabicas, a famous flamenco player, and he was a very imperfect player because he's very, very old school, self-taught. And when you listen to his recordings, there are a lot of, again, if you listen just casually, it sounds great. But if you're listening as a learner, as a student like I am, and just picking everything apart, there are so many imperfections, rhythmically and technically. And when I see people do covers of this passage, I notice that many of them, there's not one single player that I've seen who has played it the same way as Sabicas. Because the way Sabicas plays it, he has these very, this is very awkward. Here, this, to jump from this to this, it's very hard to get it clean. And there's a lot of like precision issues actually with Sabicas playing. So the workaround that other modern flamenco players have is that they change the notes to make it easier to transition from the different passage to another, so it sounds cleaner. So that's something to be aware of. Imperfection. That's another topic. Maybe it's a good topic to talk about. I was often taught by different flamenco teachers about how important the tempo is, how it has to be very precise and clean. But again, as I was listening to Sabicas, man, his tempo is fluctuating so much. And it kind of works because in solo performance, it's totally fine. You know, you can dictate the flow of things. So in the context of jazz, this is very important. So there are players who are very good at playing, have very good time feel when they play with an ensemble. They know how to listen to the ensemble and react appropriately and play in such a way that when we listen, say, oh, this person has very good time feel. But sometimes these same players, when you make them play solo guitar improvised without any pulse, their tempo starts to fluctuate a little bit. It is perfectly normal. It's so human not to be perfect. So the important thing here, what is it? It's the ability to learn how to listen to our surrounding and react to it, because we are playing in relation to something. Consider drummers when you have like trade 4s or trade 8s. Sometimes when you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on how complex the drummer is playing, you'll notice that their time feel is not always quite precise. Especially modern jazz drummers who take more risk. The more risk they take, the less likely, unless they really practice hard, and unless what they practice is really in their muscle memory. Because a lot in jazz play, we're taking risks. We're sometimes relying on part of our muscle memory. Sometimes we're just going for it, and when we go for it, sometimes the tempo might not be so good. Whereas in older styles of jazz, which there's much less risk taking, drummers, when they did drum solos, were very easy to follow because they rely a lot on muscle memory. I want to take, for example, the example of Stokolo Rosenberg in Gypsy jazz. Maybe many of you know who he is, one of the most famous Gypsy jazz players. In his early careers, he played a lot of his solos were not actual real improvisations. You can hear in a lot of early recordings, he plays the same solo with maybe 1 or 2, 3 variations. And every time the solo is played, it's played with such rhythmic precision and also technical precision. It's insane. If you were 100% able to improvise that way, it's absolutely insane. Now you take another player like Birelli Lagren, who's the opposite. There's nothing prepared. It's just in the moment. And of course, technically, it's still insane, but there are human imperfections. Sometimes like missed notes or wrong notes. Not blatantly wrong notes, but it's just normal as a result of risk taking. So it's this balancing act. But Rosenberg later on, he decided for some reason he didn't want to always play the same solo. He started to actually improvise in his own way. And since he started doing that, you can hear that it's not as perfect as it used to be when he was playing the same solos all the time. So again, muscle memory. The more you rely on muscle memory, it's things that you have mastered, the safer it is, right? But of course, in jazz music, there's so much risk taking, depending on the era, depending on who you talk to, that you have to find this balancing act. I've seen people practice with a metronome. I remember I used to spend time with a guy who was practicing so much with them. He was doing metronome tricks that were very impressive, putting the metronome on tune 4, just on beat 4, just on this, whatever. He was doing it so well. But when I had to play with him, and he was playing rhythm guitar for me, it was never good. I eventually had to tell the guys, like, hey man, like, I can't hire you anymore because your time feel is just not right. You know, the same thing happened quite a lot. I play, as many of you know, I play bebop and also play gypsy jazz. Sometimes I play with bebop players, and sometimes a few of them, they're curious about this gypsy jazz thing, and when they back me up, they try to back me up in a gypsy jazz way, and I have to tell them politely, please don't do that. Just back me up the way you know how to back me up. Because when they try to play gypsy jazz, because they're not used to the mechanics of gypsy jazz playing, the sound, the way, the physical mechanics, their time feel suffers tremendously. So it's what I said earlier, you have to solve the mechanics, the technical issues. It's very interesting because I remember playing with a bebop player. He had very, very good time feel, and when he would back me up, he was doing this 4 to the bar thing, you know, in his own way, in his own quote unquote modern bebop way. His time feel was good, but the second he tried to do something like the tempo was just so bad. It's a technical issue. It's the muscle memory issue. Same thing with double bass. There is a video of me that's kind of viral of me playing when I had just started playing the double bass. And it's interesting because when I had started playing the double bass, I already heard the sound of swing music in my ears. So I knew how to get the sound. But I hadn't mastered the instrument. So one of the early sounds of double bass is kind of imitating the sound of, I guess, the tuba, where you're not doing like super legato, boom, laid back, but it's more like boom, 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 boom. That kind of boom, 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 boom. You have to accent, you have to thump the bass, or like this. And when you do that, it's very hard to control the tempo. There's a tendency to rush. And you can see that video of me and Duvet playing things. I found on maybe my bass playing is it's not my favorite. The feeling is there, but I pushed too much. Took a while to correct that, and I'm still in the process of correcting it. So again, how you play the instrument, the way you physically, you could have actually good time feel. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4, but you have to master the mechanics. And then once you master the mechanics, then you can worry about the tempo. So those are all very interesting things to consider. At the end of the day, when it comes to ensemble playing, the most important thing is that we learn how to listen to our environment and react to it accordingly. And that's where I think the metronome has helped me a lot. Is again, I made this exercise. You put the metronome on, especially as a rhythm player, you put it on beat 1 of every bar, every 2 bars, every 4 bars. What this does, it does not teach you how to have good rhythm. It forces you to listen to that one beat. And when you listen to that one beat, you have to determine, have you slowed down or have you sped up? Because if you listen to that beat and you don't try to think that way, then it's not going to help. But just putting on that one single beat every bar, every 2 bars, start with 1 bar. It forces you. It forces you to make calculations in the moment. And I've practiced this so well that I can adapt right away. I've made videos about this many times actually already, so I'm not gonna spend too much time about it. I'll do a quick demonstration. I'm talking about this in the context of an accompanist, right? So here, I'm gonna turn off the metronome. This is every bar. 129 BPM. So I'm not even gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just gonna join in randomly, and then I'm gonna adjust. I sped up. I'm still fast. There we go. See? So that helped me quite a lot. But again, it's about the mindset. That's what's important, because I remember I was at a music camp one time, early morning, just hanging out in the dorms, the common room, and some other guy woke up early and started practicing. And he put on the metronome, and my goodness, he was just not with the metronome at all. I didn't say anything because I just found that very intriguing. I was like, wow, he's practicing with the metronome, but he doesn't know how to listen to the metronome. Then another guy shows up. It's like, oh wow, you're up early practicing, huh? Yeah, I do this every day. I've been doing this every day for how many years? Well, you've been doing it wrong for so many years. So it's important that you know how to listen, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what matters. So there's this flamenco thing that I've been working on lately. How does it go? This pattern is, I only learned it a few days ago, so it's still very difficult. But in the beginning, I had nightmares. I actually had a headache. I had to take a break for a little, because what's going on is extremely, extremely complex. And if I had to turn on the metronome, I'd probably get real sick, end up at the hospital. Oh man, such a noisy city. So this pattern is full of very crazy movements. The first thing I had to do was develop the muscle memory to make sure, let's go. Once, I spent many hours practicing just that, just getting the movements, the notes together, making sure the sequence of events were correct. Once I got that down, I worried about where I have to place the beats. So the first thing is this beat 1, and then there's this, and this has to be beat 3. So then this is easy, beat 1, 3. Where am I? Then here, lots of complex things happen here. So I practice like that. Da da da. You have to know where to place the beats, so that when you play in the context, if you play with a dancer or percussion, this is a compás, so that's made for accompaniment, you have to know how to sync with the other musician. But in order to do that, you have to master the notes and the technical aspect of things. So before you do that, you don't turn on the metronome. Later on, you turn on the metronome. Or let's say as a jazz musician, you're practicing this polyrhythm idea, beautifully out of tune, man. It's so hard to tune this thing because of the weather, but I'll just bear with me. Like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Da ba da 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 da. Well, first of all, before you do that, just make sure you master the right hand and the left hand, of course. But I'm staying on 1 octave. But actually, some people do that. Different things. But let's stay on one chord. one octave basically. But with the thumb, with the pick, you're just doing down, up, down, down, up, down. Master that first. Practice it until you feel very loose and you don't have to think about the mechanics. Then you put on the backing track. Here, I'll put on a tune. See which backing track. Let's put on minor swing, gypsy jazz. Oh, I love gypsy jazz. That's so cool. Hold on, minor swing, backing track. Play along. Does mine come up first? Mine comes up fourth. But I'm gonna use my buddy. Who is this? Guitar Improvisation. Great guy from France. He used to live in Montreal, but he left Montreal. So sad. Actually, I don't know if you can hear. Put it closer to the microphone. So, one way you can practice this, you can map it out. You know that it's gonna end up on beat 1 after 3 bars. So let's do this. It's gonna be A minor for 2 bars, D minor for 1 bar. And let's see if I can make it last, if I can land on beat 1 perfectly of the 4th bar. So let's see. Coming up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4. I think I screwed it up, so you see? There we go. Did I get it right? So you work that way. Of course, maybe you have to slow down the tempo a little bit. So obviously for that, you have to learn to feel this pattern in relationship to the other instruments. So in this case of gypsy jazz, you have to hear this in your head. You have to feel that. And practicing with a backing track with a metronome is very, very good. And especially if the metronome is quantized, I mean if the backing track is quantized, it's a sure way to make sure it's perfect. But here's the thing. You're going to be playing with people who are not quantized. And therefore, you have to listen. You have to learn how to listen to what they're doing. So in the context of gypsy jazz, it's this. They're going to be doing something like this. But it may not be perfectly in time. They might be slowing down or rushing a little bit. It's going to be something. But you have to know where to place the beat. So you have to... So for example, you can do this out of time. So basically, first in time, look at my foot. I don't know if you can see I'll try to do this with my foot, with my body. So you have to know how these things line up. So the first 2 beats line up like this. Then the next beat is gonna be on the upstroke. So da 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 da. And it's always because the rhythm guitar is doing this. So boom, bam, boom, bam. It's gonna be alternating between on the boom and the pa. So look, boom. So it's hard to talk the boom. Pa. Oh man, I can't talk at the same time. This one, the first one started on beat 1, the second one started on beat 4. It's a different feeling when you listen to the rhythm section. So the first starting point is this. The second starting point is that it's alternating like that, starting on beat 1, starting on beat 4, starting on beat 3, then starting on beat 2. And you have to train to be able to hear this. So when you play with imperfect musicians, you can hear when they're slowing down or speeding up. Hopefully not too much, just a little bit, you know, like human imperfection. But you have to adjust according to them. And you have to develop this, as he says, communal learning. That's why the best musicians of any given genre are in a concentrated area, often the area where that music originated, because of this communal learning. They're strict with each other and they're learning together. They learn, they know the music so well together that they know how to play with each other. So those are my thoughts. You know, rhythmically, a lot of us, if we're not told anything, we tend to develop our own innate sense of timing. So in the context of 4/4 music, as Jeff Berlin says, it should be easy, relatively easy to feel. But let's say you're a bass player, and you can play a bass line over a tune. Actually, I have a friend. That was his biggest problem. He was trying to improvise everything as a bassist, and that would affect his time. And I told him you need to develop muscle memory, because and the reason you don't have muscle memory is because you don't have enough songs memorized by heart where you played almost always the same. It's okay to always play the same thing in the beginning as a beginner, to develop these habits. Because when I play rhythm guitar now, Gypsy Jazz rhythm, I'm not really thinking about the chords. I've mastered the chords. I know so many songs by heart. It's in my ear, it's in my fingers, that I only have to worry about listening to the other musicians. And that's why it's very easy for me to fix the groove. But if, for example, if you still think about, okay, A minor, the next chord is D minor, it's gonna affect, it might potentially affect your time feel. So that was my advice to that bass player. Like, you need to know more songs by heart, and then you need to have patterns for all these different chord progressions where you just have to, it just comes out naturally. Like the melody to Donna Lee. I've been playing this for more than 20 years. I'm not even thinking about the notes. It's just, it comes out. I practice so much, I don't really have to worry about all that. I just have to worry about making sure I'm placing it correctly. But imagine if you're still learning the notes, like, how does it go? It goes, oh, then it goes to the E flat. That's not good. You have to practice so much to the point it just becomes second nature. And then only then, see, I'm talking at the same. Only then do you start to worry about placing it properly. But see, let's take the same song. Let's say I cannot use these two strings. I have to change my fingers. And now I'm forced to think. Let me see. Now, well, I managed to get that far, but then I'm screwed. I don't know. See, I'm thinking too much. It's screwing me because I've forced myself not to use the B and E string. That's what I mean. The muscle memory is so important. Worry about that before worrying about the time. So, to summarize things, muscle memory, mechanics, notes. Then, if it's music that's meant to be played with a group, learn to listen to how the group functions, where they place the beat, how they groove, and learn to place that said melody on top of said groove. So, for example, the case of Don Lee, what's important to know is that it starts on B3. 1, 2. And then this on B4. 4 and 1. And to do that, yes, for sure, you can tap your foot in different ways. You can tap on the 1 and 3, you can tap on the 2 and 4, you can tap on every beat. Let's do on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3. On 1 and 3. On every beat. I don't know if you can see my foot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's going to be hard to tap every beat. I'll do it a bit slow. It's not practical for a song like this to be tapping on every beat, considering that the song is much faster. I usually be tapping on 1 and 3 or on 2 and 4, but at any rate, I'm listening to the band, because the band is going to be imperfect. I have to place according to them. And there's this organic thing. You're imperfect, they're imperfect, but somehow you work on your time feel enough that if everyone has worked on their time feel and then all these things that I talk about, it's going to sound really, really good as a band. But in order for that to happen, you have to be aware that maybe you have to work on your time feel. And for that to happen, you have to work with players, with mentors or something that are going to be strict with you. So there we go. Muscle memory, learn how to listen to what the music that you're trying to play, so that you know how to place the beats accordingly. Then the next thing is to play with musicians who are willing to have difficult conversations. I sincerely believe in that. It's why, like for example, the in certain cities, for certain genres, the level is higher. The saying is, you'd rather be number 10 in that city than number 1. Because if you're number 1 by default, because you're the only player, it can get to your head. You can get, cocky and think you're all that until you show up to that place, the mecca of that place. There's some stories I don't want to share. There's a story, kind of relatively well-known player in a certain genre who had a lot of pride. They were a professional musician. They were playing a style of music. They were living in a place where that style of music was not quite well known. And they were very proud. They're like, I'm the only player in this style here. I'm the master. One day, this person showed up, went to the Mecca, the holy land of this music. And, they thought they were all that. And they met people who were not famous at all, but they were from that whole, you have the native people of that music, so to speak. But they were not famous. And the native people were very, very nice. Like, hey, you outsider, we like you. Come join us, play with us. You know what that person said? Sorry guys, I'm a professional musician. I can't associate myself with people like you. He said it in a kind of way like that, like. And those people are like, and many people, I wasn't there. Many people told me this story. But these native people are like, oh, okay, fine. So the native people started playing their native music. And it was the real deal. Way better than this outsider. When this outsider saw what the natives play, it's like, and then he apparently apologized. Wow, I didn't know you guys were that good, blah, blah, blah. So you see, you don't want to be number 1. You want to be in a pool. You want to be in the Mecca. You want to be with the natives. And when you're with the natives, suddenly the standard will be much higher. The story that I just shared, it's a true story because I heard it from different sources. And you probably wonder, oh, Dennis, who is that? Who are you talking about? No, I'm not here to humiliate anyone. Like I said, I'm a nice person. But again, there are things that you can learn, But this is the problem. Not many of us have the opportunity to live with the natives of whatever style of music. If you want to play Indian classical music and you're very serious about it, you probably have to move to India. If you're serious about Arabic music of I don't know, from specific country, I don't know, let's say Egypt. Well, chances are you might have to go to Egypt if you're really that passionate, serious about it. So I say, this flamenco thing is difficult for me. It's ideally, I should move to Spain, the parts of Spain where there's a lot of flamenco, learn some Spanish, understand the mindset, and see where the standard really is in that country. And in that setting, I can improve a lot. So you have to make regular pilgrimages to such areas. Well, the thing is, I became, quote unquote, famous in the gypsy jazz world, but actually I never lived in Europe. But I did. The money I saved up from my work, I don't spend a lot of money on myself, especially in those days. I'm not a spender. And the money that I would save up, I would take these trips to Europe to hang out with my friends. And a lot of these were my friends. So in those days I was able to stay with people, so I saved a lot of money there. So I was able to be involved in that community without living there. So it is possible, but you have to make certain sacrifices. Now, I'm not willing to make that sacrifice of spending 2-3 months. If I still lived in Canada, I would do it. But my condition in Japan is very complex. The visa that I have, I'm kind of a prisoner of Japan, basically. In order to renew my visa, there are certain conditions that I have to meet, and that forces me not to travel as much as I used to. But if I were still in Montreal, then yeah, I'd probably spend 2 or 3 months in Spain every year. And that would be not the best situation, but it would be good enough, better than what I have now. So that's the sad reality of things. The environment can help a lot, but not many of us have opportunities to be in said environments. So there we go. Those are my thoughts. I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts on this topic as well. Please let me know. Be nice, guys.